This is Robert Kraft, and I'm your host on SNN.Network. And joining me right now is Andy Heyward. He is the chairman and CEO of Genius Brands International. It's a publicly traded company. The symbol is GNUS on NASDAQ. Andy, thank you for joining me today. How you doing?
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on. So, we have a lot to cover today. The company has put out a lot of news in 2020, and really, this is our first time doing an interview together. So there's really so much to cover. But I wanted to start off first to give everybody a little perspective on Genius Brands. So from there, I'd love to get your background, and then maybe a little bit into why you wanted to found Genius Brands International.
Well, my background is in the children's entertainment business. I've been doing this my whole career. I started off working at Hanna-Barbera as a writer on Smurfs, Scooby-Doo, Flintstones, Jetsons, all of the shows made at Hanna-Barbera, and eventually left and started my own company where I've produced probably about close to 6,000 half-hour episodes of children's entertainment over the years. They range from Inspector Gadget to Alvin and the Chipmunks, Hello Kitty, Super Mario Brothers, Sonic the Hedgehog, Ghostbusters, Captain Planet, G.I. Joe, Strawberry Shortcake, Care Bears, Where's Waldo, tons of different shows, and eventually sold my company to the Walt Disney Company, managed it for them for a number of years before starting Genius. Genius today is a new kids company that comes mostly from people from the Walt Disney Company and Hasbro Toys, Warner Brothers, Fox, and Marvel. It's a very highly pedigreed group. Everybody in the company has been, if not at the C-level, at the top of the company where they came from, and been associated with most of the biggest hits in children's entertainment in the last couple of decades. Genius Brands is, we have a very simple business model. We make cartoons and we put them on our channel, and it's as simple as that. It's a industry that is very unique. It's impervious to most forces that are out there. It's not affected by interest rates. It's not affected by the price of gold. It's not affected by COVID. It's not affected by Brexits and impeachments and what party is in office or not in office. Kids watch cartoons. They continue to watch cartoons, and they will always continue to watch cartoons.
Very good. So, what would you say makes Genius Brands right now uniquely positioned to capitalize on some of these trends that you just mentioned?
Well, when COVID happened, most of the studios in Hollywood shut down. They're not doing production anymore because they're not allowed to. We're in another business. We're in the animation business. All the people that work for us, they work in front of their computers. So our business is actually flourishing right now. We're doing more production than we've ever done before. We're growing our company, and we find kids are home from school and their viewing has gone up. So it was the right time for us to launch our kids channel. We launched our kids channel, cartoon channel, a few months back during the summer, and we've had tremendous growth since we began. We're now covered. Pretty much 100% of all US TV households have access to us. We're on Comcast, we're on Cox, we're on Roku, we're on Amazon Prime, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, Apple iOS, Android Mobile, Android TV, Tubi, Dish, cartoonchannel.com. Anybody that wants to receive it can get it. And in fact, we are a free service. It's ad supported, unlike in these times where everybody's watching their budget so much and so many challenges that we face, where you look at, say, Netflix or Disney Plus or HBO Max, those are all subscriber-based services. Ours is ad-supported and free. So it's really available to everybody. The content that we run, that we are distinguishing ourselves with, is, we call it content with a purpose. Everything has to be positive. Everything has to have some, we'll say, enrichment in it, things that are going to bring value to kids and their families going forward.
So my next question is, because we have a lot to unpack there, and I have a few questions queued up to ask you on that front. But I just have to ask, from your experience, I mean, you worked on shows that, I mean, I grew up with, I love. I mean, I wish I'd still watch today without being judged too harshly. But how do you know what works? How do you know what works and what doesn't work? What's your perspective on that?
Well, nobody knows exactly what works and doesn't work. After a while, you trust your instincts, and you've been doing this for some time, and you have some track record to see. The people that we work with are people that have been there to the promised land. Everybody in our company has been a part of the biggest successes in our business. We work with the director of Lion King, Rob Minkoff, the writer of Frozen, Shane Morris, Margaret Lesh, who's executive chairman of our channel. She created Fox Kids and put on Power Rangers and the X-Men and and Spider-Man cartoons, all kinds of successes. She produced My Little Pony. So, the people that are in our group have been there, have been associated with a great number of hits, and we're working with those people that have done that. So we're trying to, bring fresh ideas, fresh creativity, bring up young people with great energy and new ideas, and at the same time have people who know how to run a business and have developed successful programs repeatedly again and again.
Come on, Andy, you don't have some kind of children's show algorithm in the back there that you use to then pop out, every new show that comes on the channel? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I wish it was that simple. I'll tell you
Yeah, right.
one thing that we do quite a bit is we are very close with retail. We work with Walmart, we work with Target, we work with Amazon, and through them we get great insight into what is working and what is not working at retail. So, for example, a few years ago, we were told by our retail partners that there would be a blank space available at this time now for girls preschool. So based on that, we developed Rainbow Rangers. We went and sold the toy line to Mattel. We have about 300 and something products in the marketplace, or coming into the marketplace now, that are all based on Rainbow Rangers. One of the beauties of our business is that we have a dual income stream. We're not producing shows that are, live action series in general do not lend themselves to merchandising. So everything that we do lends itself to toys, video games, publishing, backpacks, sleepwear, apparel, bedding, school supplies, stationery, party goods, costumes, pretty much everything that you could think of. In Rainbow Rangers, we've got every possible toy that you could imagine in product, from toothpaste and toothbrushes to touring shows to bicycles. And if you have a success in the kids business, the second income stream is the consumer products and the merchandising that it throws off. And we're doing that quite aggressively and robustly.
Very good. All right. So now I want to dig into some news that the company announced. So some corporate developments. Back on November 16th, the company announced and I quote here, the strategic acquisition of ChizComm Ltd and ChizComm Beacon Media, end quote. Can you elaborate a little bit more about the nature of this transaction and what it means for Genius Brands?
Yes, thank you. Well, we are growing the company organically through new cartoons and developing them on air and growing our cartoon channel. But we're also growing the company through acquisitions. And the acquisitions have to be smart, thoughtful, nimble, and not the typical ones that our competitors are going after. And the main competitor, of course, is and will always be the Walt Disney Company. So ChizComm is a media service. They are the largest media buyer of children's commercials in North America. They spend more money on children's commercials than Hasbro, Mattel, General Mills, Kellogg's, anybody. They're the number one client of Nickelodeon, of Cartoon Network, and of Disney. So they brought us tremendous strategic advantage on a number of levels. We have a certain standing now when we talk to some of our clients that we want to place shows with. They also bring a value in being able to bring media onto Kartoon channel. So there's a lot of value there. Plus, they bring us over $100 million a year of revenues that immediately will be consolidated onto our balance sheet.
Very good. So my next question then is regarding Kartoon Channel, and plus a number of shows that actually on your background you have there with Shaq's Garage, Stanley's Superhero Kindergarten that you announced with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So there's a lot of shows and the channel, everything under development and or in the process of launching. So I have to ask, what would you say were the company's goals for 2020, and do you feel that you accomplished what you set out to do? COVID notwithstanding.
Yeah. Well, our goals are to develop our content and push our content farther and closer to the audience. And we're bringing two new and very important series coming forth this year. You mentioned one is Stan Lee's Superhero Kindergarten, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the other is called Shaq's Garage. By this time next year, the company will be it'll be a different company because we will have much more content on the screen and on shelf. But the kids business is a very ephemeral one. It's very competitive, and you need to get sampling. And the way to get sampling so that the kids can try out these new products is by having something that is pre-sold, that has some marquee value to it, and that has recognized characters. Stan Lee is probably the most important name that there is in entertainment, if not today, perhaps ever. When you think of the fact that Stan Lee created 5 of the top 12 grossing box office movies of all time, including the #1 box office movie of all time, The Avengers, Avengers Endgame. He created Spider-Man, he created X-Men, he created the Iron Man, he created Fantastic Four, Guardians of the Galaxy, Black Panther, Thor, on and on. We acquired the rights to everything of Stan Lee from the time he left Marvel. So his name, his likeness, his physical signature, the right to do licensing based on him, and the right to package his name and all of his IP that he created post-Marvel. This is a treasure chest. So the first one we are bringing out is actually the last program that Stan Lee ever created. It's called Stan Lee's Superhero Kindergarten, where with all the superheroes that are out right now on shelf, he pivoted and said, let's do something for preschool. And he came up with an amazing idea. He loved Arnold Schwarzenegger, thought Arnold was a superhero in his own right, and worked on developing this with Arnold before he passed away. Arnold plays a former superhero who is now in disguise in a kindergarten teaching kids with special powers how to use their powers. But in keeping with our ethos of our company, there'll be tips on health, exercise, nutrition, anti-bullying, inclusiveness, of course, all of the things that we want to push forth, diversity in the values of our company mixed in with the entertainment. So you've got Stan Lee's Superhero Kindergarten on one side, and then we just concluded a deal with Shaquille O'Neal, who is also become a shareholder in our company. And we're very enthusiastic about this. Shaquille has touched so many businesses, whether it's American Express or Papa John's Pizza. He's actually on the board of Papa John's Pizza. He was an early investor in Google. He is a spokesperson for Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, Carnival Cruises, etc. So Shaquille, in our show, has a collection of anthropomorphic cars. Think of it a little bit like Toy Story meets Hot Wheels, put through a prism of Shaq. And that's going to be a very important show. It'll have a lot of consumer product merchandising. Shaq will be doing a lot of promotion for us. He just did an interview yesterday, in fact. So we're very excited about where we're going. And I would say that to get back to your question about 2020, is it meeting our expectations? Very much so. Because of the financial liquidity in the marketplace, we were able to take advantage of that, and we raised a substantial amount of cash. We have a clean, pristine balance sheet. The company does not have one penny of debt, zero. And we carry over $100 million of cash on the balance sheet. We have about $60 million of warrants, which will at some point be redeemed as well, further enriching our cash. So we've got a lot of dry powder, and we're looking to make some very smart and nimble, deft, accretive, strategic acquisitions.
You know, that's a perfect segue, because my next question was to ask about that, because the company has announced a number of financing this year. The most recent one of which, the $58 million registered direct at the end of October. So with all the shows in development, launching a new channel for streaming, you know, I think anyone watching this right now understands that in the media business, content is key, and the need to develop and acquire content is vital. So with that in mind, I mean, you kind of already alluded to it a little bit, but really, was that the game plan with all the financings this year, was really to use it for strategic acquisitions, developing more content? And why would you say this year you put the pedal to the metal to do more financings?
Well, liquidity was in the marketplace, and a number of people recognized that we're in an industry that grows value and will live forever and ever. You know, if you're in the business of manufacturing a car or a washing machine or cell phones or whatever, you make them, you sell them, and you're done. In our industry, we make a cartoon, we license it to a broadcaster. 2 years later, the product comes back to us. It's more valuable than it was when we first produced it, because it's been now seen and the brand equity continues to be infused into it. So we're manufacturing products which continue to pump oil for us year in and year out. Warren Buffett had a great expression where he says, until you make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. And the cartoons, they play around the world. They are licensed to broadcasters. We get paid for them, and we will be paid for them forever. As I said, Tom and Jerry is a perfect example. It was made in 1940, and it's continuing to be a workhorse every single day. Likewise with the Flintstones, likewise with Scooby-Doo. And our cartoons that we're producing are being made by people who have done all of those cartoons. Everybody in our company, they've touched Scooby-Doo, they've touched Smurfs, they've touched Disney's Lion King, they've touched Disney's Frozen, they've been a part of My Little Pony, they've been a part of all of these successes, and they know how to get there once again. So I hope I answered your question.
I believe you did. So very good there. So, you know, as I said at the outset of this interview, 2020 is really, it's been a year for the company, you know, across the board: company announcements, awareness, financings, the works. So what would you say has been the number one question or maybe one or two questions that you've been getting from investors, and maybe we can address them right now?
Okay, that's a good question. Probably the single most frequent question, well, there's two. One was, would we be having any stars and celebrities that represent diversity in our company? And the answer is yes. We've been working on this deal with Shaquille O'Neal for quite some time, and we wanted to get him because he speaks to so many audiences. He's beloved by young, by old. He goes across a very, very broad, diverse community, and we felt he would be the right person to develop a show with. So the diversity is very important to us. We also engaged a chief diversity officer this year, because we think that is something so important to have, not just inside our company with our employees, but with the stories we tell. So that's an important question that we've been often asked. And of course, we couldn't talk about Shaquille until we had him closed and signed and announced. But we now have a deal with the Wayans team, and they're going to be part as well of the development of this show. We're very excited about that. The other question we get is, when will the company be profitable? And it's a good question. And we're focused on our blocking and tackling and building the business and developing the business and building the assets. When the assets are done, they last and live forever. So Right now, we're developing our catalog and we're developing our channel. If you had invested in, forget Tom and Jerry in 1940, but the Flintstones or the Smurfs or Scooby-Doo, when those shows came out, you would be realizing thousands of times your investment back. Those shows paid for their investments in the first 2 or 3 years that they were produced. And then everything from then on is profit. So we're developing our catalog, and we believe the same thing will be the case with all of our shows that we're doing. Every one of these shows is designed to be international, is designed to be evergreen, and we think the catalog we're putting together is going to be as powerful as anything else. Likewise for our channel. If you had invested early on in Cartoon Network or in Nickelodeon or Disney Channel or Fox Kids, those things became multi-billion-dollar enterprises. Fox Kids, which was actually started by the executive chairman of our channel, Margaret Lesh, that began with a business plan on a piece of paper that she presented to Rupert Murdoch. 4 years later, it was sold to the Walt Disney Company for $5.5 billion. So these assets are very, very valuable. We're creating very, very valuable assets, and but it requires patience. Warren Buffett said you can't make a 3-minute egg in 2 minutes, even if you've got 12 burners. It doesn't matter. It takes time to do them, and we're very focused on our task in building the asset value for our shareholders.
Very good. So I also wanted to ask a question because I think it would be prudent to talk about some of the industry headwinds as well. What would you say are some of the risks that you see looking ahead, and how are you trying to address them from what you can tell us?
Well, the biggest challenge that we face as a production company is getting the best talent. We're not in a manufacturing business. We deal with real people and real ideas and real creativity. So there are only so many A writers in Hollywood. There's only so many A directors. There's only so many great voice talents out there. And we compete against the Walt Disney Company, among others. So the challenge for us is always finding the best talent, and what we've been doing is getting talent that's accomplished in terms of writers and directors and whatnot, creative people, artists, but also developing young talent. The company is composed of a lot of seasoned veterans like myself who've been to the promised land and who know the route to get there, but also young people that we're bringing up and developing and encouraging them and mentoring young talent. I like to call myself a recovering writer. I started off, writing Inspector Gadget and the Scooby-Doo and the Smurfs and whatnot. And at the end of the day, you still are telling stories. And those stories come out of somebody's heart, and they work their way up to the brain, and they come out the hand on a piece of paper. And those words have to be better words than are being seen on the other channels. And we're very focused on telling stories that have heart and soul and purpose and meaning, and that are emotional, and also that have fun and hijinks in them, and developing the people, the next generation of people that are going to tell those stories. And what we are trying to do is create the next generation of Scooby-Doos and Smurfs and etc.
Very good. I mean, my one quick follow up to that, because you came out of a period where, I mean, you worked on, like I said earlier, some of the best shows out there. I watched all of them. Is that a potential risk in that, during that time, there wasn't as many, there wasn't the Netflixes and the streaming partners, the ability to create your own channel, where there's now this huge necessity to have not only more content, but now there's this potential risk that, because there's only so many different distribution channels, that may have contributed to, I mean, I love the shows as they were, but they had that direct access where, they were on the Cartoon Network, or there's the Saturday morning cartoons and all that. So, I mean, is there a risk there that there's just so much out there, and it's just finding some of this content in order to gain that brand equity. Is that something you think about?
Well, yes, and that's why we created our own channel. That's the exact reason we
Got it.
started Kartoon channel, because otherwise we are a producer at the mercy of the Disney company or Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network or Netflix. And by the way, we sell to Nickelodeon, we sell to Netflix, we work with all of the different other companies. But if you put a show on there, you are not their first, you're not a first class citizen. The most important shows on the Disney Channel are Disney owned shows. The most important shows on Nickelodeon are Nickelodeon owned shows. They're going to get the most promotion, they're going to get the most oxygen. So we can't be in the risk where we sell a toy line and we have all kinds of products coming into the marketplace and our show could be taken off the air, rested for a while, repurposed at another time period, any number of different things. So we made a conscious decision to take the step of controlling our destiny and investing in creating our own channel. Kartoon channel today is it's ubiquitous. We're on Comcast and Cox and Amazon Prime and Amazon Fire and Apple iOS and Dish and Roku and Tubi and any number of other platforms, including cartoonchannel.com. So it's available everywhere, and we needed to make sure it's available everywhere. So we have the wherewithal to get the shows out and be seen, and also to control the marketing and to control the exposure in a way that it will drive awareness to then stimulate the consumer product sales. Because our business is a virtual circle. You watch the shows, you get engaged in the content, you go out and you buy the products that you can then play the play pattern of the show itself.
Very good. And I mean, it also doesn't hurt that, and I was joking earlier about creating an algorithm to then pop out shows, but you control your own channel. Now you have at your fingertips what people are watching, what's working, what's not, and that will at least help give you some kind of insight as to the next move for that show, or maybe developing some other shows. I mean, I'm sure you've thought about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have a thing called GNUS Labs, which is a sort of a crucible where we test out different shows, and we have all kinds of vehicles to test, see what's working and what's not working in real time. And but the channel and the content together is it's the reactor and the plutonium that goes inside the reactor. If you have just the reactor, if you have just a channel, you are building somebody else's business. You are building other people's cartoons and the value of those and the licensing that comes from that. On the other hand, if you have just the content and you don't have a channel, you are at the disposition of somebody else who's going to say, we're going to keep you on, we're going to take you off, we're changing your time period, we're going to rest it for a bit, any number of things. Having the two of them together is absolute jet fuel on the fire.
All right. And one question I also had on something that you brought up earlier in this interview was the revenue model, and talking about how your plan is for to be completely ad supported versus having a subscription model. Is that something that you think might change over time, depending on as you continue to move forward here, or do you really foresee it completely being totally ad supported?
I think it's the ad-supported model is best for us, especially in today's world where everybody is very challenged, looking at how they can make their ends meet and budgets meet, and parents don't want to compromise options that are available for kids. We don't want to have a channel that is, layered on top of Netflix and Disney and whatnot, where you have to just pay more and more money each month. We think the advertiser model is a much more appealing one, particularly so because we are focused on content that is enriching for kids. We have a product inside Kartoon Channel called Cartoon Classroom. And what we want to do is bring things that parents will know always they are safe. When their kids are watching this channel, there's not going to be any inappropriate stuff going on, no negative stereotypes, no violence, no inappropriate language. They're going to feel safe to leave their kids there, and they're going to learn something from it. The first show we did was Warren Buffett's Secret Millionaires Club, where Warren taught lessons in financial literacy through adventures in a kids investing club. And kids got a great deal and get a great deal out of that. By the way, it's a fantastic show. I encourage you.
I was waiting for you to bring that up already. I mean, come on, everyone knows you do that show.
I tell adults to watch it. It's a great show for adults. There's so much to be learned there. And as Warren said,
YouTube. I saw a few episodes on YouTube, actually.
There you go. We're not trying to teach kids how to read a balance sheet. We're teaching them valuable lessons in life and how to be successful. And business is part of that. So we have another show called Thomas Edison's Laboratory, where a group of kids are investigators and they have wonderful adventures in science. So there's a lot of positivity on our channel, and we think that's something else that will distinguish it as well as the shows.
Very good. All right. So with that, from what you can tell us, what would you say are some of the company's value catalysts now moving ahead, looking at 2021?
Well, it's always going to be the same. It's going to be the content that we produce and the channel. It's not going to change. Everything else will focus on those two things. As I said, if you produced Tom and Jerry in 1940, you have a multi-billion-dollar asset today. If you produced Scooby-Doo started in I think it was in the 70s. They continue, there 3 or 4 generations of people who have been watching Scooby-Doo on it, and it still is very successful. All of the content ends up being very, very valuable. And these are going to reflect themselves over time in the profitability of the company and in the stock price. It's as night follows day.
And my final question, because you've been very generous with your time here today, answering all my questions, but I thought I'd end on a fun note. So with this question, what are your favorite cartoons of all time? And you can't say any of the cartoons within the Genius Brands family right now. That'd be cheating a little bit.
Yes.
I know you're always going to be a fan of those.
Of course. Can I say something that was in my previous companies?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say 2. One is Inspector Gadget, because it was one of my very first that I did. And wherever I go, people seem to recognize Inspector Gadget. It's been distributed around the world and it still performs everywhere. So that's one. And then the other one is a show that I produced with the family of Dr. Martin Luther King called Our Friend Martin. And I'm very, very proud of it. It's the only program ever animated on the life of Dr. King. And we wanted to do something that introduced to a new generation of kids the life and legacy of Dr. King and the civil rights movement. And we had every star in Hollywood you could imagine in it. Dexter King played the voice of his father. Oprah Winfrey played Coretta King. We had people from Samuel Jackson to John Travolta to Ashley Judd to all different people were in that show. It's a very prideful product. Angela Bassett and needs to be a remake done of that. We did that in 1999, I believe, and I'm talking with the King family to do something new. I hope I'll be able to.
So Andy, with that, we're there. Where can my audience go to follow along the Genius Brand story, everything they need to know, the website, please let us know.
Just www.geniusbrands.com. Couldn't be any simpler than that. Everything's up there.
All right. Well, Andy, thank you so much again for taking the time today. Good luck, stay safe, and I look forward to our next update.
Thank you so much. Stay safe yourself. All good.
Thank you.